Welcome into the AZ Wildcats podcast, and we have a cheating scandal to discuss off the top of the pod.
Welcome on in, guys, to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I am your host, Damon Fairall. He is Kevin Thomas, and happy Friday to all of those that celebrate. We are here in downtown Phoenix, ready to rock, Kevin, and ready to get to the weekend. But first, we got a lot of Arizona Wildcats news to talk about. Loaded show today on a Friday. But as you mentioned off the top, we got a cheating scandal to discuss. And no, this is not talking about ASU adding on to their record amount of NCAA level 1 infractions. We're talking about the astronomer CEO at the Coldplay concert. Kevin, what did you want to talk about with this scandal?
Okay, look, first of all, we were talking about this pre-show around the office about how it's kind of insane how viral this has gone. It's literally everywhere. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying there might be bigger scandals. There might be bigger fish to fry in terms of the scandal, stuff going on. We had
you're saying in our country?
In our country, in our county, maybe even, right? I mean, Justin Spears, we had him on our Big 12 Media Day extravaganza show, and he said this. I'll say one thing. I didn't want to bring this up in front of Wilbur because it's a sensitive topic to talk.
You saw Wilma with Sparky too earlier?
Whoa! Whoa!
I saw that too, and I was like,
Whoa, Justin.
Whoa!
PHNX TMZ Sports here. Justin Spears live reporting trouble in paradise.
hey, I'm just saying, Stephon Diggs followed Wilma on Instagram earlier today.
Damn.
It's going down.
So,
Damn.
He did say that. He kind of broke some news that maybe Sparky of ASU has been in cahoots, as it might be an understatement, with Wilma.
He's a big J, too. Justin Spears is not a guy who's putting out fake news.
1,000%. And then in light of this Coldplay, debacle going on, Spears expanded on this with evidence.
Wow.
He said Coldplay concerts are getting out of control. Wow. I mean, that is... What do you feel when you look at this?
I hate it. It seems pretty damning evidence. Some people were zooming in on Wilma there and saying that looks a little bit more like a bear than a wildcat, probably. That's something maybe it is. Maybe it is fake. Who knows? But my number one question out of all of this is, Kevin, is who the hell's side is Justin Spears on?
Yeah.
Because it really feels like he's pushing a narrative right now. And you know how those journalists these days in this country can be. He's pushing a narrative, and I'm not a huge fan of this narrative, to be honest with you.
You're right. Whose side is Spears on? And also, how long until Wilbur responds to these allegations? I mean, Justin Spears is a guy that works closely around this program, around these athletic department here in Arizona, and he's going to have to see Wilbur at some point, and possibly Wilma. So it feels like Justin Spears is going to have to answer for these allegations that he's putting out there. But you said he is Big J, and you're right. He did have some evidence to back up his claims. And, Damon, I was shocked when that hit my timeline from Justin Spears. Truly TMZ Tucson kind of stuff. I mean, this is like a picture that the paparazzi would pay $100 million for. You know what I mean? Sparky with Wilma. This is the stuff of generations of faithful love between Wilma and Wilbur. Potentially being thrown down the drain? I don't know. This is unbelievable news.
Yeah, I mean, we are, of course, PHNX TMZ Sports here on this channel, and so this is the kind of stuff that we dive deep into and care so much about.
Yes.
But if Justin Spears is tweeting it, then it's either he's pushing their agenda or it's factual information that's being laid out upon us, and you hate to see it, man. You absolutely hate to see it. But one thing you don't hate to see, Kevin, a little UFC this weekend. I know you're fired up for it, my guy. And with our friends at Bet365, I'll be getting in lots of good-looking bets. Anything in particular you're looking at that fires you up?
Roman Kopylov. I haven't looked at the Bet365 lines yet, but Roman Kopylov by finish feels correct.
Okay. Okay.
Kevin Holland by finish feels correct.
Kevin Holland, that dude doesn't stop fighting.
He doesn't. This is his 4th fight of the year, by the way, and we are in July.
That's wild. That's wild.
He's found his welterweight stride, and it feels like he's going to stop messing around in middleweight and actually make a run at something here because he's really talented on both the ground and the feet. So, yeah. I don't know. I'll have to really dive deep into these lines. But off the top of my head, yeah, I think Poirier at plus odds is always going to be fun. Holland is going to get the job done. And I think Kopylov get the job done.
I love it, Kevin. I absolutely love it. We'll be fired up to watch.
Well, Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira is going to murder his opponent.
That is a pretty damn good fight between Kyler Phillips and Vinicius Oliveira, and I'll be tuned into that one. That's on the undercard.
Yeah. Oh, so is Brendan Allen, Marvin Vittori. That should be the co-main
Crazy,
event.
man.
Those two guys have fought in a casino before, just for the love of the game.
Beautiful card, up and down. And of course, you know where to watch it with our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos.
Facts. The BetMGM Sportsbook.
BetMGM Sportsbook, the largest sportsbook in the state of Arizona. They got all the pay-per-views up there. We'll be getting in our bets, and we'll be heading up to Gila River Resorts and Casinos to watch that event happen. But Kevin, we do have some Arizona stuff to eventually talk about. And I know, it's everyone's on the edge of their seat to talk about it. Caleb Love in the summer league. Obviously, the news dropped yesterday during our show. Actually, we didn't really talk about it at all, but it was a little bit of breaking news. Damian Lillard returning to the Portland Trailblazers at the end of his tenure with the Milwaukee Bucks after they bought him out. He'll be rehabbing within this first year, but then he'll be rejoining the team, the organization that drafted him, and that he has so much loyalty for, apparently. And despite them kind of screwing with him during his trade process and whatnot, but it seems like that's where he wants to be. And I guess our guy Caleb Love, we were feeling pretty good about Caleb Love's chances of making the Portland Trailblazers roster this season. Again, Damian Lillard will be rehabbing, I think, much of this year at the minimum, if not sitting out the entire season. But Kevin, what do you think that this means for Caleb Love's Portland Trailblazers future?
As you already know, I believe he is the franchise for that team. I think that he is the cornerstone of the Trailblazers' future. I'm kidding. But I do think that, in terms of the Damian Lillard move, I know it might sound crazy, but I think it only helps Caleb Love, right? To potentially be able to tap the mind of a Damian Lillard and really expand his game offensively. He's already an offensive threat. I think being able to learn from a Damian Lillard, even if Damian Lillard's out for the whole year with that Achilles tear injury that he did suffer in, I think round 1 of this year's playoffs, right? So, Dame's probably not going to play next year. So I don't think it really affects Caleb Love's potential to have a roster spot, I don't think. But you never know. I do think it's good for Caleb Love to, and I know me and Spears kind of made similar jokes on Twitter about how nice it is of Dame to come back just to mentor Caleb Love and make sure he becomes the franchise that we know he can be. But on a more serious note, I do think it helps Caleb Love just to have that kind of guy in the organization that you can probably always go to and learn from, and he can really help you keep a roster spot as well. So, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I think that at the very least, Dame probably holds a good amount of influence within the organization. So if he takes a liking to Caleb Love, that could only maybe help the situation. Not that the Trailblazers are making roster decisions based off of who Dame likes personally and not who he doesn't. But I do just think that that's a good person to kind of be a sponge around, take up as much of their basketball knowledge as possible. And Caleb Love is a guy who wants the ball in his hands, right? And, not to say that he's anything close to Damian Lillard, but, Damian Lillard also a kind of a volume scorer type of guard. Take as much as you can from a guy like that and really try to develop your own game. But again, I think that this won't hurt Caleb Love in the short term, but I do wonder what it means for the long term. I don't think you should expect Drew Holiday to be in Portland for the foreseeable future. I wouldn't be shocked if they tried to flip him even before the season or during the season. But, that obviously eats up a guard spot there for the Portland Trailblazers. But I do think that Caleb Love still has a decent shot of making this roster as a backup option, or at least a guy that can potentially play for their G League affiliate for a minute and then kind of get called up.
Yeah, no, I've been saying it on Twitter every time a Caleb Love highlight reel crosses my feed that he is an NBA player. And I think that he will be good enough to have a spot in the NBA, whether it is kind of like that tweener, like you're alluding to, of starting maybe in the G League, maybe if someone gets, you never want to risk that, but like things happen, people tweak ankles, whatever, and then you come up for a couple weeks, kind of almost like in a different font, but like an Aaron McDonald in a way where like you have a spot in this league somewhere. Is it where you currently are? I don't know. But if you play well enough and show your skill, you might end up finding a nice little permanent home somewhere. So I think Caleb Love is kind of like that player in a way. And yeah, I'm excited to see him try to get a foothold here in the Portland Trailblazers organization. I asked you the question in our show rundown, and you kind of alluded to it there. Do you think, because how much can we really learn from Summer League, right? It's a bit of a weird level of competition where you have some top guys, you also have some of the league's bottom guys in a way, and you always get these Summer League outstanding performances from guys, kind of somewhat random guys from around the league sometimes. How much do you think we can take away from Caleb Love's Summer League performance? And do you think that the Trailblazers are putting much weight into what he's been doing in the Summer League? Or do you think they already know that this is who he is?
I think you need to see it. I mean, maybe that this is who they thought he was, and this is not surprising to them in the slightest. But I think that, he can't go out there and just shoot 28% from the field and earn a roster spot. You have to see him go out there and show that he's, one of the better players on the court in the Summer League, because he's a guy who played 5 years of college basketball, at a high level for big programs. And you expect him to kind of hit the ground running here, or else I think that would raise some level of concern. So maybe there wasn't much room for, maybe lighting the world on fire and surprising people, but I think that there definitely was room for hurting yourself in the process. And Caleb Love has performed admirably. He hasn't done that in the slightest, but a guy that, when you talk about that kind of tweener, but someone that's kind of found his footing, I think, in the NBA, another Arizona Wildcat is Brandon Williams. And, Brandon Williams played for a really bad Arizona basketball team. It's that team that I always talk about, Kevin, with Justin Coleman and Chase Jeter, that was just, essentially unwatchable. Brandon Williams was, he chose Arizona at a time where not a lot of people were. Then he was also working off of some pretty bad injury issues. I think he had an ACL tear his senior of high school. He had some, people where there were some rumors about maybe his long-term ability to play basketball. But he goes undrafted. He signs with a team. He ends up on the Westchester Knicks. He's then goes to the Portland Trailblazers, funnily enough, and then plays for the Magic G League team and has been on the Dallas Mavericks or their G League affiliate ever since. But it feels like more recently that he's kind of found a little bit more of a role in Dallas. And he played 33 games for them last year, averaged 8 points per game. I think Caleb Love could have a similar type of career. Not that he's going to be some sort of star in this league, but it's taken Brandon Williams about 4 years to kind of finally feel like maybe he has a determined roster spot on a team, and maybe it takes a second for Caleb Love, but I think that getting reps in decent usage in Portland early on could be big for just establishing himself in the league and maybe just continually getting himself some opportunities. But I really do feel like the best way for Caleb Love to be successful in the NBA is to kind of have like a campaign-esque career where he's somewhat of a guy moving around team to team, volume scorer, getting opportunities when maybe there's some injuries around there, and also maybe having the opportunity to sign for some pretty good teams in the process, because frankly teams like having that kind of high volume scorer like that off the bench as an option, especially with injury problems. So campaign's played for some really good winning basketball teams, and I'm kind of hoping that Caleb Love can find himself a similar role in the NBA.
Yeah, and I saw someone, I forget who, so I apologize if they are in this chat. And of course they're in this chat because this is the Arizona Wildcats podcast. And if you're not watching it, are you really a Wildcat? That's all I'm saying. But they did mention that like Caleb Love's one big, if you are a detractor of Caleb Love, what is the main thing that you're saying? It's his decision making and his selfishness, right? That's like, I don't really think that's the selfishness thing. I don't think that's a real thing, but that's what the detractors tell you, right? That he is a ball hog and he needs to make better decisions and he's not capable of running an offense. Is there anyone that he could better learn from than a Jrue Holiday and a Damian Lillard if he needs questions on good decision making as a guard in the NBA. They're two of the best decision makers the league has. Even though Paul George would tell you that shot was a bad shot, it seemed like a pretty damn good decision in that moment when Damian Lillard made that shot from the hash over Paul George. Anyway. Yeah, I feel like Caleb Love has a really good opportunity, and you've alluded to this very wisely before on this podcast, that him going undrafted was really a blessing in disguise for him because it allowed him to pick a spot like Portland, who has guard depth in a way, but no real true future plan for the guards in Portland. And I feel like Caleb Love stands a chance to make himself a part of that plan, even if it is off the bench or even if it is in a more tangential role. It feels like Caleb Love's in a great position to make a run at being a guy in the league that can stick around for multiple years and play on some successful teams, like you said.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Excited to see what Caleb Love continues to do here in lead up to the NBA season. And I do feel that, he does have a very good shot at making this roster, but you love what you've seen from Caleb Love thus far in the summer league. He's just kind of gone out there and done what you've expected him and needed him to do. Based off of, like I said, his experience level in college basketball and whatnot. I believe he had 17 in his last game, albeit on not the most efficient shooting, but he did shoot well from three, added in 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 1 turnover. And the Trailblazers are 3-1 with him kind of leading the way there for their summer league season here thus far. So yeah, that's kind of all we got on Caleb Love. Carter Bryant continues to also perform very admirably. I think he had 12 points in his last game as well. And is just always brings it on the defensive end. 16 points in his game last night. 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 6 of 9 shooting, and 4 of 6 from 3. Sheesh. Which is like just chef's kiss for Carter's long-term future. If he can up that volume of 3-point attempts, because I really think that, maybe Carter is never going to be that guy who is putting the ball on the floor, is dribbling through people, is maybe like the ball handler on a pick and roll type of situation. But I do think that Carter could be like a 5 3-point attempt per game type of guy on good efficiency. And if he's bringing it on the defensive end and an energy standpoint and also providing rebounding and, that extra pass that we all know that he kind of provides, like I do think that Carter Bryant, that's probably his most likely avenue to being a long-term sustained winning NBA basketball player.
Yeah, and you noted some of the ways that he can impact winning. Another way he can do that is with his underrated playmaking. I'm not trying to say that Carter Bryant is out here, with the Chris Paul vision, right? But I will say that like for a wing player, I think he's a more willing passer than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
And I think that, I posted a highlight of him driving to the hoop, kind of dishing around the man defending him in the paint to his center who was kind of trailing behind on the baseline there for an easy dunk. And it wasn't like the most innovative pass you've ever seen. It wasn't this, Magic Johnson style crazy pass, but it is really good vision from that position, especially for a player that's pretty much been defined as a 3-and-D kind of tool guy, right? And I think that like Carter Bryant kind of finding his confidence to find that potential. I really do think his potential is super high compared to what we're seeing right now, even in the early stages of Summer League. And he does project as that 3-and-D kind of do-it-all kind of player in a way. But if he can find that playmaking, it just adds another tool to that toolbox of Carter Bryant's. And I liked the quote that he had the other day. I didn't really have it on hand. I should have. That's on me. But they asked him about like his up and down scoring performances, I think, in these Summer League games. And he was pretty much saying like, I don't give a damn about if I score 2 points, if I score 16 points, if I score 109 points. Shout out to Will Chamberlain.
30 or 2.
Yeah. Right. And he's just saying like, I just want to win. And I almost retweeted it and said like Carter Bryant would die for his first ever championship at this point. He's a super talented player who, and we've talked about this multiple times on this show, but like most of these high level recruits, like you're kind of just running through the competition. When you're younger, your wall is filled with medals and little golden basketball guys hitting a jump shot with a little trophy on it that they got from whatever brand redacted store. Shout out to Max.
Yeah.
And I think like when Carter Bryant, who is one of his most touted prospects in his area growing up in a talent rich area, it's not like he was in a talent dead zone where it was supposed to be easy for him. I'm not saying that, but he's never won a championship, never won a major championship. And that's, something he said after Arizona lost to Duke this past season. I'm sure he is itching to just lift something and feel like he's truly, not like he doesn't feel like he's accomplished anything yet, but he must have that feeling of like this has to pay off. You know what I mean? Like, this has to result in a victory of and winning something and saying, I was the champion of this. So yeah, I'm very excited to see the hunger and the playmaking increase for Carter Bryant as his career continues.
Yeah, and it seems like San Antonio is such a good place for it. Just they have that kind of generational superstar in the making in Victor Wembanyama, and surrounding yourself with guys like Carter Bryant that just want to help win, don't care about their statistical output, want to do the dirty work, like play defense and be the kind of the energy guys on the team. Like, I think that's exactly who you need around a guy like Victor Wembanyama, and even Dylan Harper, right? Who figures to kind of be, a long-term fixture of that organization and a volume scorer type. But also, you also have De'Aaron Fox in the building as well. So they just need guys to kind of supplement those already star players that they have in the making. And I think Carter Bryant is like the perfect guy to star as a role player in the NBA. And then you can see if that leads to anything bigger, right? Like, because I think at the very least, we know Carter Bryant's floor is a winning role player type, but his ceiling is much, much higher than that. And I'm not really sure what the heights of that ceiling could reach, but I know that it's a special basketball player. But does he have that ability in him? We're going to have to find that out here in the league.
No, yeah. And I think part of the Carter Bryant thing this year is going to be, you alluded to the depth the Spurs already have. They do have some high-level depth already. Is Carter Bryant ready to step into that kind of a role and impact winning on a night-to-night level in the NBA for a team that's trying to compete? I'm not saying the Spurs are like title favorites, but I mean, if you're in that locker room, I'm sure that's the mentality, right? We have Wemby, we got Stephon Castle, you got De'Aaron Fox. Like, we're trying to compete right now. And does Carter Bryant, how does he fit into that day one? I'm not sure. But I do think that by the end of the year, I do think he's going to be able to carve out some sort of role consistently with the Spurs. Because I think he's just too talented to not, right? I think like he has too many tools to just be a more developmental piece. I feel like they are going to invest in him. It's what we talked about throughout the draft process of like, you don't draft a guy as high as Carter Bryant was drafted if you're not going to invest in him in the NBA regular season, right? Like, it's just not how that works. And it was a reason we thought Carter Bryant had to go to the NBA because he's getting mocked so high. That investment's going to be so high. You might not ever get that if you go outside the lottery. So, yeah, I think he could not have landed in a better spot for his development, for his personal fit. I feel like is really good in San Antonio as well. That attitude that he has, I think mixes right in with Dylan Harper, with Wemby, with Stephon Castle, with the organization as a whole, with its history, with its fan base. I think the fan base has already taken to Carter Bryant and kind of latched on to him. They got a Carter Bryant muse out there. So, yeah, I'm very excited to see how he continues to fit with the San Antonio Spurs.
Well, I think that about wraps up our NBA Summer League discussion here. We're going to turn around on the other side of this break and talk about what Jaden Bradley and Anthony Dell'Orso had to say at their press conference yesterday for Arizona basketball and just kind of what it means for the team in this upcoming season. We'll do that right after the break here on the AZ Wildcats pod.
You know what time it is. It's an ad break. We're talking Circle K, folks. And if you need snacks, if you need drinks, if you need Arizona lottery stuff, I think, if you need literally anything, Circle K has you. I didn't even mention their incredible gas prices because it's America's thirst stop and America's favorite gas station. And if you join that inner circle for free today by downloading that Circle K app, it's so easy to do. You can save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Unbelievable savings. The app is free. The savings are free. You're getting free money by joining the inner circle. And once you make those 5 fill-ups, you get 3 cents off every fill-up. And once you become a Circle K veteran, earn that patch on your shoulder right there, that Captain C, you get into that 5 cents off per gallon every time you fill up. That's not even counting their inner circle fuel days. You can probably get up. I think I've seen Emma. I think she's talked about how she got 50 cents off per gallon one time when she combined her inner circle with the inner circle promo and just made mad savings. So check out magic mad savings at Circle K. Check out their new deals. $1 cookies. Save 25 cents off per gallon when you buy 3 Coca-Cola 20-ounce products as well. So join that inner circle for all these exclusive savings. Download the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions do apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for more details.
You see me rocking, I should say, my Brandon Bills hat that I got on right now. We played a clip earlier, Kevin. I was wearing the exact same hat. I can't take this thing off. And it's because it's almost more comfortable to wear this hat than it is to not wear the hat. Because that's how nice Brandon Bills and their custom headwear can absolutely be, whether it's a snapback, trucker, fitted beanie, or even a t-shirt, Brandon Bills has you covered with performance and style. And of course, we all know about that campus collection that they have at the University of Arizona, whether it's on their website at brandonbills.com or the campus collection they have at the Arizona bookstore with some limited edition releases. Brandon Bills has the best Arizona Wildcats gear that you could possibly buy. And if you're not taking advantage of our promo code of BBPHNX for 15% off that first order, what are you doing? The absolute premium Arizona Wildcats headwear for the best price point possible. BBPHNX gets you 15% off that first purchase. Head to brandonbills.com and use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. Love myself a little bit of Brandon Bills, Kevin.
I mean, how could you not? It's the most comfortable headwear in the game. So stylish, so beautiful.
Kobe, Circle K gave you 50% off multiple times in June because that's just what they do, man. It's the gas station of giving. That's what I always say. So they just love to give.
In the Freedom State, they give you all the freedom to save money on gas.
Wow.
And I think that's beautiful.
That is beautiful. That really, truly is beautiful, Kevin. Another thing that's beautiful is watching this Arizona basketball program year after year, right? And I feel great about the vibes going into this season. I think most Arizona Wildcats fans do. But, you know, Jaden Bradley, Anthony Dell'Orso, they sat down yesterday with media and they talked about kind of, you know, some of the changes of this offseason and, you know, how they're feeling going into this year, as well as their thoughts on some of the newcomers here. But why don't we start off and hear about what Anthony Dell'Orso had to say about his body transformation and just kind of adding a ton of muscle to that frame.
My body for sure is one of them. That's something I've really focused on pretty much since we lost to Duke last year. That's from the get-go. No time off, just went straight to that. That's always going to be an ongoing process, but so far it's going great. Something else, I mean, you're always just fine-tuning things, you know. Defensively, you're always thinking, you know, I can do this, I can do that. Offensive, I can do this, and I can do that. But for sure, my body's the number one thing. Yeah, I've gained, I want to say 25 pounds at least. I'm, you know, still soaring up, still trying to lift weights, still getting bigger. It's always a work in progress, like I said before. But that's been the big focus. I mean, me and Coach Rounds have been in the weight room a bunch. You know, different things, different eating styles, and lifting weights, and it's something I've really focused on. So I got a little bit to go, but for sure I'll put on.
25 plus pounds of muscle for Anthony Dell'Orso. You know what I mean? I'm with it. I've been saying all offseason that I think ADO is going to come back a different player in 2025 than he was in 2024. I've been consistent in saying that he's not going to like set the world on fire, but he will be better and he will be more sharp for Tommy Lloyd in a second year, a full year in his system. And welcome Erica Day to the chat. We can now start the show at 2:28 p.m. So I think that like ADO adding 25 pounds of muscle plus, is that going to make Arizona win a national championship? The answer is probably not, right? But I think that when you look at what were the two biggest gripes Arizona fans, including myself, had with ADO last season, it was that he was a turnstile on defense and that he was not big enough physically for the Big 12. And he went on to explain in that press conference that he did have a little bit of a learning experience, I'll say, coming up from mid-major to the Big 12 and playing with all these physical guys in this conference, having to go up against Houston, having to go up against Kansas. Like he said that there was a bit of adjustment there, and there are times that you just want to pack it up and go back to Australia and go out in the Barbie and do whatever, right? And like I think that like him pushing through that, him staying at Arizona, him never even wavering on whether he wanted to stay at Arizona. He said there was, pretty much as soon as they lost to Duke, it was about getting better here, right? And I think him being focused on how he can be a more effective basketball player in the conference, I think is only going to help Arizona, especially when you can actually see physically that he's bulked up. Like if I was making the thumbnail today and I pulled up that picture of ADO and he's flexing and I'm like, wow, he looks completely different than how he looked in that press conference clip. I mean, the man has clearly added muscle. And I do think it's going to make him a more effective basketball player in the Big 12 next year. And I know it sounds superficial, but I mean, that was the main gripe with him, is that physically he couldn't hang in the conference and that on defense he was getting bullied. If he can get bullied a lot less in 2025 and he can still be an effective shooter with those muscles he got now, I think I'm right to feel that he's going to be a more effective player for a second year under Tommy Lloyd.
Yeah, I mean, a 6'6", 190-pound frame is a little bit light, right? Yeah. But when you start talking, in that range of like over 200, 210, like now all of a sudden, you're looking at a pretty solid frame. And I definitely think that it was a good emphasis for him to make in this offseason, just given the fact that, yeah, I mean, when you're playing at Campbell, like you're not going to be used to playing the physicality of Big 12 basketball that brings, right? And, I think that you have to shout out ADO for the, and Chris Rounds, of course, who we all know is a staple of this basketball program and continues to be, despite whoever is even head coach, just always the trainer of the Arizona basketball program because he is very good at his job. But, that's all seems to be a big emphasis for a lot of the guys that come back, but Anthony Dell'Orso in particular needed that, right? And now if he can stay on the floor a little bit more, that changes his outlook as what his role could be for this team, because there were so many times where he started last year, he played the first 5 minutes, and then you really didn't see him for the rest of the game, and maybe one other time at the start of the second half, but like he really wasn't sustainably out there on the court because Tommy Lloyd didn't trust his ability to defend, to not give up more points than what he was giving us on the other end. And now, if he, as you mentioned, if he can add to that frame, but sustain his level of shooting that he already had and ability to kind of move off ball and catch and shoot and whatnot, if that doesn't change with the added size, then I think that you're talking about a completely different player for this team in 2025, 2026. But I guess, Kevin, do you think that would be enough for him to retain his starting spot going into next year would be my next question, because if he is more playable, and I know that you've kind of in particular pushed back on the notion that you think that he really is even in contention versus Dwayne Aristode and Ivan Karchenkov for that 3 spot, but do you think that a change like this and a body transformation like this could lead to potentially ADO still keeping that starting spot, even if he's not playing the bulk or majority of the minutes at that 3 position?
I think so. I actually really do. Because I think if you're Tommy Lloyd, we've talked about this on this show before, he values experience. He values guys that have been in the trenches with him before to start the game, right? And I think that setting the tone is important. And if ADO can physically be out there for longer and can hang with the guys in the Big 12 next season and can maintain, like you said, the level of shooting that he brought to the table out of Campbell with the new muscles that he's added, the Dell'Orso, as I'm going to start calling him. I feel like he does, like I've said the whole time, it's his job to lose unless Dwayne Aristode and Ivan Karchenkov are truly special, right? And I think if I said, if he bulks up, if he can hang more, I think it honestly changes his game as well. We were known for this in the early days of our pod, but we've been pretty good about not doing this. But I'm about to branch back out into the crazy comparison realm. I'm not talking about who they are as players, but I'm just talking about when Steph Curry bulked up, he changed his physique crazily, right? He got all muscular, got all stocky, and he was able to absorb punishment going to the rim, right? I'm not saying that Anthony Dell'Orso is Steph Curry, but what I am saying, though,
pretty sure it's exactly
is that when you do have a shooter whose game is predicated on staying loose, getting around at, being having high stamina, getting in and out of screens, off double screens, off, drop, whatever you want to call them, does that actually open up ADO's game in the Big 12 even further to where maybe he could actually catch, fake, drive to the rim and absorb a contact and get a foul? Maybe even an and one. Does it actually add a layer to his game? That's what I'm interested to see. As beyond just the physical, superficial transformation, how does it actually impact his game on the court? Does it make his shooting worse? Does it expand his game? How does it affect it? I feel like I still think that Aristode or Ivan Karchenkov, specifically Karchenkov, could snatch that role from him.
Yeah.
But if he comes back and he's bulkier and he can hang in this conference, I can totally see Tommy Lloyd being like, well, Dell'Orso has been in the trenches with me before. He can at least start the game. We can get Aristode or Ivan in as soon as possible. But yeah.
I mean, I don't think that changes the ceiling for this team being better with Aristode or Karchenkov, depending on if one of those guys can just outright snatch that position right throughout this offseason and just show Tommy Lloyd that they are clearly far and away the better option than a guy like Anthony Dell'Orso, who maybe doesn't have the highest ceiling, but I think, we all know what we're getting out of him, right?
Yeah.
At the bare minimum. But also, in accordance to this conversation, Ivan Karchenkov is listed at 6'6", 220 pounds.
Sheesh.
Before he even gets on campus. That dude is in insane shape, right? he's massive for his age, and there's no telling of what maybe Chris Rounds and co could do with that frame and that body going into next season if he will have enough time to really mold that as well, because he just came over from playing with Bayern Munich. But I'm assuming that playing with Bayern Munich also partly is the reason that he is in such great physical stature, because he has had to play in the top flight professional league in the BBL, the Bundesliga, if you will. But yeah, I think that it's you could be seeing a completely different caliber of athleticism and ceilings from Aristode and from Karchenkov. But that being said, I think ADO it provides you the most trust that Tommy Lloyd probably has in a player from day one. And that's where I think that we've seen similar stuff with Tommy Lloyd before, where he likes to have that veteran leadership, that presence, and kind of just almost show respect to, the more esteemed players on the roster. And not to say that those guys aren't higher level recruits than ADO, but ADO, clearly is one of the leaders of this team. Otherwise, they wouldn't have him up there doing one of those press conferences yesterday.
No, yeah, and also I wanted to touch on the physical readiness of the freshmen coming in, because I didn't pull this clip, but they asked Jaden Bradley about just how physically large are these freshmen coming in, because Koa Peat's physique has been talked a lot about from the time that USA video dropped to now, and Braden Burry's his physique has been talked about because he's 6'4" and pretty bulky, and the reclassification thing is so he comes in more physically ready for the Big 12 than the average freshman point guard. You have the overseas players, the international players coming in. Physically, height-wise, CD Gay is extremely ready, and I feel like he uses his size pretty intelligently on the court as well. Dwayne Aristode is a big guy as well. So Jaden Bradley was straight up like, what are they feeding these freshmen these days? It's an unbelievable thing that Ivan Karchenkov can come in, and I understand he was literally a professional basketball player prior to coming to Arizona, but you got Koa Peat, who physically is league ready. You have Ivan Karchenkov, who is got a professional's physique. You got Dwayne Aristode, who can jump out the gym and chase down just about anybody, it seems. These are a bunch of athletic freaks, to steal Bruce Feldman's term, coming into Arizona, right? So I am interested to see what the strength and conditioning looks like next year, just how much it can change some of these freshmen from day one on campus to when they eventually, if you're Koa Peat, go to the NBA draft or whatever.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what Koa Peat's going to look like in March. You know what I mean? From a physicality standpoint on the court, I feel like the way he's going to be able to use, I know we're talking about ADO and all this, but just the overall physicality of Arizona's team is what I'm kind of speaking to here, because I know they have a lot of freshmen they're relying on next year, but those freshmen physically, they're ready for the Big 12. They can play.
Yeah, Koa Peat in particular, I think, really projects as a guy from day one from a physicality standpoint that just will fit so well in this conference. But Braden Burries as well. I mean, that he's a bigger type of combo guard, at least for the college ranks. In the NBA, I think that changes a little bit, but for college, he has the size for sure to play guard, and he definitely seems like he has that kind of physicality and frame that elite level prospects tend to have. But moving forward into kind of the conversation that at hand here in the presser from ADO and Jaden Bradley. Anthony Dell'Orso talked a little bit more about some of the other Wildcats players that are performing in Summer League.
I think it's been great for them. I mean, showing what they can do. Obviously for us, I think we saw them all year, so we kind of had a better outlook on, almost least surprised at others. But yeah, I mean, Carter's showing great energy, especially on the defensive end. I mean, he's really, locking guys up and showing his ability to get, move side to side and how athletic he can be. Caleb's obviously one of the best offensive talents that was in college last year, and he's really showing that in the Summer League. But, I mean, yeah, I couldn't be more proud of those guys, and best of luck to them. But, I mean, for me, I'm the least surprised because I saw that all year.
I mean, you and me both, ADO. We're the least surprised people in the country, it feels like right now, and specifically related to Carter Bryant and Caleb Love. I feel like we've all known exactly who they are. But it is cool to hear ADO and JB a little bit talk about the Summer League Wildcats and such. But we were talking about Koa Peat, Damon, and unless you have more to say on the Summer League clip, I would love to hear Jaden Bradley big up Koa Peat, and we will talk more about this after JB tells you all about Koa Peat's work ethic.
Koa was dominating over there, with the best of the best. And, I don't expect anything, less for Koa. I asked him about the trip. He liked it. And, he said it was a long trip for sure. Excited for him, Coach Lloyd, and, the rest of the guys that were on the staff to get the gold. And, I'm excited for him to get back with the team and so we can continue to grow as one. Yeah, he's always in the gym. Hats off to him. He always wants to get better. Very strong, physical guy. He has some crazy dunks already. Athletic on the defensive end. Big presence and excited to see what he can really do when you really get up and down versus other opponents.
Not a whole lot there, honestly. I think that's kind of all stuff that we are, very aware of Koa Peat. We all watched Koa Peat in the Team USA U19, competition, FIBA U19 World Cup as well. But, I think that, Koa Peat is going to be an absolutely special player for this team. And you love to see, a guy like Jaden Bradley, who is probably the leader of this team going into next season. He's been in this program for 3 years now. He's the starting point guard. He's a senior. And he knows just as well as the rest of us that Koa Peat is an absolutely special elite level freshman that will be playing in the NBA for a very, very long time.
No, yeah, and I loved hearing JB talk about how he was paying attention to the games out there, and I loved hearing him say how not only that, but he talked to Koa Peat about the trip and just the fact that Bradley as a leader is kind of doing his due diligence in the summer to make sure he's tapping in with all his guys and that they're all having a good summer and such. But I also love to hear that Koa Peat, even after the long trip, is back in the weight room immediately, getting ready for the Big 12 season. And there's really no days off for a guy like Koa Peat when you're trying to go in the top 5 of the NBA draft. And I think, in terms of the relationship with Jaden Bradley and Koa Peat, that's going to be a very important one throughout the whole season. So it's nice to hear that they're getting out ahead of that early. And also, Tommy Lloyd getting a chance to work with Koa Peat, I feel like is only going to increase the wins for this team coming up this year. But JB also spoke about the level of competition next year in the Big 12 and in the non-conference as a whole, as Kobe tries to break Damon's heart here.
It's
live on air.
You think that I wasn't already broken, Kobe. I also am. You have no idea the willpower it takes to sit in this chair during a show to see things like Ketel Marte is taking a couple personal days because of what unfortunately transpired during the All-Star break where his house was robbed. I'm sure his family is very uncomfortable. I hope Ketel and his family are doing fine. But at the same time, only to the Arizona Diamondbacks could your player starting in an All-Star game somehow turn into a horrible, negative, bad thing where you lose your best player for an extended period of time here. But of course, Gabby Moreno also headed to the 60-day injury list because why not?
Yeah,
why not?
And Gino getting hit in the hand in the All-Star game. That's what I was saying. You have two storylines of it's going to be fun. I know, but true. It's going to be fun. We're going to watch the All-Star game. Gino's going to be in the home run competition. Oh, wait, no, it's Jazz Chisholm. And okay, well, at least we get to watch Gino play in the All-Star game. Nothing bad could happen there. And then he gets hit in the hand. And then Ketel Marte's house gets unfortunately robbed. It's just unfortunate all around for the Diamondbacks right now. So we should probably continue to talk about positive Arizona Wildcats stuff here. And Jaden Bradley was talking a lot about how, Saul asked Koa Peat a very similar question at the USA trials about, does it mean much to you to have such a tough schedule? And Koa Peat alluded to the fact that it's part of why he chose Arizona in the first place, is they have the biggest stage to play on, right? They have all these huge games. You have national champion Florida, game 1 after the red and blue game. So here's Jaden Bradley on the tough matchups and overall just the loaded schedule as a whole.
That's what we're here for, play the best of the best, right away. We got a tough game out the gate. That's what we, preparing for. But, if it starts in practice. So, we'll keep building, working on ourselves first. And, when it gets closer to that date, we'll start, preparing, getting our scouting report and, getting all that together. But right now, working on, finding each other, finding, how we can play with each other and connecting that bond. Not for sure. You definitely, everything. We watched the national championship, and the last thing you can remember is Florida. They won it all, and a great team. They got a great coaching staff over there. So we're excited to play the former national championship team, and see how we can match up, and we want to come out with that win for sure.
absolute gauntlet of a non-conference schedule and gauntlet of a conference schedule as well. I mean, that was what the move to the Big 12 was all about, was getting in the premier basketball conference in America and kind of matching up stylistically with those programs and it kind of catapulting the Arizona Wildcats into being a much more physical basketball team that can compete and, not kind of shrink in those big tournaments. So you love to see it. You love to feel that this team they want that level of competition just like their head coach does. And that's why Tommy Lloyd and co scheduled this non-conference schedule, because they could have just as easily wiped their hands clean and said, hey, we're in the Big 12 now. We don't really want to play anybody. Give us cupcakes to kind of ramp up our run into the Big 12. But no, they want to continue to play the best of the best. And it gets you, I know it didn't work out in the long run for this team, but it gets you the opportunity to play teams like Duke in non-conference where you get a first look at them. So then going into the tournament game where you play Duke in a later round, you know what that team looks like. Or at the very least, when you play these high-level teams, say that Arizona doesn't play Florida, but they play Kentucky, right, in the tournament. But you have that film against Florida and how you play against Florida. You have that Kentucky versus Florida film from the season, and you can kind of compare and contrast and say, hey, what do we need to do better? What can we take from this Kentucky team that we didn't do last time? Stuff like that. So I think that this non-conference slate is only going to do this team wonders. Even last season when it was a disastrous non-conference slate for this team, I think that it helped them in the long run get mentally tougher and become a higher caliber, team in the process. So yeah, you love to see the players want that level of competition and sign up for it.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And I think like this only serves you in the long run to have it having a bunch of cupcakes or just teams that are not up to your level heading into the Big 12 conference play does not help you prepare for Big 12 conference play. In fact, it kind of gives you a false sense of security in a way where if you're just whipping up on teams heading into the Big 12, that is not what every night is going to look like in this conference. And so I think that giving yourself some battle scars early on in the season, I think gives you actually more confidence, even if you lose a couple of those games in the non-conference heading into the Big 12 conference play, because you know that you can play the best of the best. And so you're not worried about a Kansas. You're not worried about, a Texas Tech or whatever, because you've played the Florida night one.
Yeah.
You've ran up against an Alabama, a UConn. And so you have that built-in confidence, and you're not going into night one of the Big 12 season like, well, the best team we played is Central Michigan. And so I think that we got this. I don't know. You have no idea.
Shots fired.
Yeah, sorry, Noah. He was actually very nice helping us set up for today's show. But it gives you so much more confidence heading into Big 12 conference play when you've gone through these battles before you get through the trenches of the Big 12. And I think that we talked about it before, but Tommy Lloyd wouldn't load up this schedule if he did not think his team was capable of handling it. Tommy Lloyd is not in the business of setting himself up to go 0-6 to start a season. You know what I mean? And so I think that this loaded level of schedule shows you the caliber that Tommy Lloyd thinks he has in that locker room. It shows you the level of play he thinks his team can achieve early in the season. And I think it's part test, but also part like showcase in a way of him saying like, hey, we're going to play the toughest teams early on in the year. We're going to look good doing it. We're going to get a couple W's. Maybe we lose a game, who knows? But we're going to look good. We're going to learn from it. And the whole nation's going to see the kind of talent that Arizona has on display night in, night out. So I could not be any more excited for the basketball season coming up in roughly 1,850 hours or so.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I mean, I can look up the hours. I don't know.
Why don't you go find us an update on that, Kevin, and just we could just daily give you the hourly update as to when Arizona basketball will be back. But Jaden Bradley also had some stuff to say in regards to some of the other players on this roster, including one that has become a giant topic of discussion on this show, and I'm sure all other Arizona Wildcat pieces of content out there, and that's Mo Krivas, who figures to play a big role next season, and you kind of need Arizona. You need Mo Krivas to provide, efficient and high level, at least offensive basketball, in my opinion, for him to truly, be helping this team win and reach their ultimate goal of winning a national championship by the end of the year. So this is what Jaden Bradley had to say about the third-year Arizona big man.
Krivas is, he's a warrior. That injury is not easy, not playing, but he's been doing a great job with J-Rock and, other people he's working with doing his treatment. We saw him back on the court. He's looking like he never skipped a step, dominant. And, we're excited for him to get a full season with us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's much of the same of what you hear from a lot of the people in and around the program, that there are fairly high expectations for Mo Krivas, and people think that he is going to be a very valuable piece of this team. That injury was tough, and I think that a guy coming in to a new country, right, and having to go through that injury, maybe having to go through some struggles of not playing as good of basketball as the expectation level maybe was, that could be demoralizing from a mental standpoint. And now hopefully this gives Krivas that ability to just kind of reset and go into this next year fresh and kind of leave everything else in the past behind him, and only worry about the future for this program.
For me, I'm interested to see the work that Krivas has been doing when he can't do basketball related stuff. Like being out for that long, how much has that stunted or affected his development as a big, right? How much of his ceiling did he possibly miss, or has this just helped him figure out the mental side of the game that much quicker, being next to the coaches all the time, listening to what Tommy Lloyd has got to say?
Yeah.
If he's been a sponge this whole time, I think it could help him, right? But I am curious to see, with all this time away from the game, how does he look the first month or two of the season? I think it's very interesting to hear, obviously Jaden Bradley is his teammate. He's going to say he's been dominating, and we're excited to see him get out there and have a full season with us.
Man, I wish we kept Henry Vasar on this team.
He's going to be like, oh, could you imagine Jaden Bradley's up there and they're like, how is Mateus Krivas?
Well, he's no Henry.
And he's like, honestly, I love the pick and roll with Henry. We're going to have to figure it out with Mateus, but we'll get it down. No, in all seriousness, I do think that he could find success for Arizona next year. It's to what degree can he find that success, and to what degree has his injury affected his level of development? Those are the questions I have, because I think as a player, we kind of know his skill set. I'm not expecting to come out this year and be shocked by what Mateus Krivas offers. That one hurts. What Mateus Krivas offers on the basketball court. So I'm expecting him to have a slow start. But by the end of the year, I would love to see him dominate the way that Bradley is implying. And also, I do have an update on the amount of hours. We have an optimistic answer and a pessimistic answer. Which one do you want?
The optimistic answer.
Okay, the optimistic answer is we have 1,833 hours until the red and blue game on October 3rd. The pessimistic answer is we have 2,577 hours until November 3rd when they play Florida.
1833 feels so close, Kevin.
When you compare it to 2577, yes. Yes, it does. But yeah, back to what they were talking about with Krivas over there. Do you think that the injury and the time away is going to have him, out to a slow start, or do you think that the ability to ramp up is going to have him game ready day one?
I feel like he's going to have so much time off that, he should be pretty ready to go from the moment that he gets back onto the basketball court. And I think that should be the expectation level, or else, that was a mistake truly from the coaching staff, keeping him instead of Henry Vasar. I mean, not quite sure exactly how that all went down and how much choice Arizona had in the matter. But I just think that with the amount of investment in Mo Krivas, you definitely need to see him, kind of reap the rewards of his playing time immediately, or else I think that it really could be a disaster. And maybe you as like I said last season, I don't want to say that there was a mental roadblock for Mo Krivas, but I do think that there's something to be said about when you're playing poorly, it kind of compounding on top of one another, and you start pressing the matter a little bit more. And I feel like if we see that from Mo Krivas, then maybe that's just a big issue, right? And maybe the level of competition is just a little bit too much, despite the 7'1", 7'2" size and giant body that matches up with playing high level basketball. But maybe it's just not the spot for him, right? And maybe it's just a little bit too high profile of a program. So we'll find that out, I'm sure, pretty early on. But I don't expect that to be the case, because I trust Tommy Lloyd, and I think that Tommy Lloyd has put a lot of time and energy and resources into a Mo Krivas, and that's where you have to just kind of trust him. He's the big man whisperer. He's the foreign big man whisperer, and this is just another one in the long line of Tommy Lloyd, hopefully success stories that we can talk about.
Yeah, Tommy Lloyd just whispering in all types of different languages to the big man that he coaches.
Oh, yeah. Estonian,
yeah.
Latvian, Sudanese.
Yeah,
if you're CD Gay.
Yeah, I don't even know. He might be a linguist. Who knows? But
by the way, CD Gay still unable to join the team here as he's dealing with some visa issues. So hopefully we can get some updates on that in the near future. I might try to hit up some governmental avenues and see what we're looking at here, because
political reporter Damon Fairall.
It just feels like that's not chill.
Let
Feels like
the
that's
man
not chill
hoop.
at all.
Let the man hoop. He's just a Senegalese man trying to get his basketball going, and that's just a ball and a dream, and apparently a visa issue. But that's for another episode, and hopefully Damon, the political analyst, can get on that and get us a report, maybe even from a senator or something. I'll go all the way up the ladder. I don't know. But I on the Krivas topic, before we move on from that, Damon, I'm interested to see like day one his fit with this year's roster. Like I want to know. And I'm not saying that it can't fit. Like I'm not saying it won't be a work like that. They can make Peat and Awaka and Krivas and these guys work together.
Mm-hmm.
But I am interested to see how his like bigger, slower kind of game fits in with the Awakas, the Peats, the Burries, the Karchenkovs, the Aristodes, the ADOs. Because I feel like this roster is really ramping up to be a speed, fast, like up and down kind of team, and I just don't know if that's the kind of player that Matthias Krivas is. And so I'm interested to see how Tommy Lloyd works an offense around Krivas with a bunch of really fast, quick guys around him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you could say that he probably is, given his size, or it's almost entirely an effort thing in my opinion, whether or not how good of a screen setter he is, because he should, on paper, be a pretty damn good screen setter. So, I think that the pick and roll should probably be a good option with Mo Krivas. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they're going to stylistically have to change the way that they played basketball last season, because they were way more transition based than kind of the half court offense that you almost are required to play if you have a guy like Mo Krivas out there on the court. So that's going to be an interesting one to monitor here. One last thing, Kevin, before we do get out of here. We do have, no preseason poll in regards to the Big 12 football season.
Because they are cowards.
Because they're cowards, yes. it is pretty egregious, truly, if I do say so myself, in regards to, no preseason poll. Like, you're clearly embarrassed of what happened last season with
confidence shaken
Arizona State, and picking them last, and then them ultimately going on to win the conference. But to me, that's like the softest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Is it not?
I mean, sometimes you go out there and you get knocked out in the first round, and you have to go through another training camp, and you got to cut weight, and you got to show up again on fight night and fight again. It's about getting up, Damon. The Big 12 conference was knocked down by the preseason polls. Credibility shaken to the core. You got to come back and fight again.
But again, and I keep saying it, but I feel like that's what you want to pump up about the conference is even the last team in this conference can come and win the whole damn thing, because all these teams are so close together. Like, look at how fun this is. This is the Wild West. There's nothing like it in all of college athletics. This isn't just going to be Clemson versus Miami, or Alabama versus Georgia, or Ohio State versus Penn State. Like, exactly what's going to happen in those conferences before the season starts, right? Maybe barring a few teams, like maybe Oregon can make the Big Ten title game. Maybe LSU can make the SEC title game. But for the most part, it's those same teams. Whereas in the Big 12, I really, truly feel like there are like 8 different combinations of Big 12 title games that we could get at the end of the year, and no one would be in the slightest bit shocked. To me, that's what you want to pump up about your conference. But, last season, I will say that this is via John Kurtz, who does great work putting together the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. And in this newsletter, he did a encapsulation of and I actually just ended up losing it here, Kevin. So if you actually wouldn't mind going to John Kurtz's Twitter page and finding exactly the results of this Big 12 preseason player poll that he did and conducted at Big 12 Media Day. But he did say that someone asked last season who was the players' representatives of this Big 12 media poll. And I will say, in regards to what we were just talking about it being so top to bottom open-ended, last season the players picked the University of Arizona to win the Big 12 Conference, with second place going to Utah and third place going to Oklahoma State. If you are unaware, those were the 3 bottom feeders of the entire conference last season. I believe it went Utah, Oklahoma State, Arizona in that order, from bottom to top there. Yeah. So you have to take it with a grain of salt a little bit, but I do think maybe that it won't be as drastically different than it was last season. But Kevin, do you have those results for us?
I think so. It says that the voting for the champion went down as favorites. There are co-favorites to win the league. 5 voters giving Arizona State the title, 5 voters giving Texas Tech the title, 4 voters giving Baylor, 3 voters Iowa State, 2 BYU, 1 for each of TCU, Utah, K-State, Colorado, and Kansas.
Anything shocking there that stands out to you when looking at those results?
I feel like Iowa State getting 3 is kind of hefty, to be honest with you. I also think Texas Tech, as much as they have paid, probably feel like they deserve a stake for number 1. I feel like they probably feel like they're
Didn't you say that they were tied for number 1?
They're tied for number 1, but I'm saying they probably, if you're a Texas Tech fan, the money that your program has invested into the roster, I feel like you should be sitting there like, why are we not number 1?
I mean, ASU fans think that, they have the best quarterback in the country. So if you ask them, that's the reason why.
Yeah, but I'm not fully shocked by any of these. To be honest, I'm surprised that some of the teams that got 1 vote, for example, like Colorado, we're giving a vote to Colorado,
or BYU getting 2. I think is a little bit surprising. I mean, I think without Jake Retzlaff, I find it hard to believe that they will have really any shot of making the Big 12 title game, to be completely honest with you. But to be honest with, like, the one that stands out to me, Kevin, is Kansas State. I believe you said they got 1 vote, right?
They did get 1 vote.
Kansas State, just 1 vote on this poll. I think that Kansas State is the preseason favorite according to most analytical sites, like the one that we broke down yesterday from ESPN. They had Kansas State, I think, as the second favorite behind ASU. I've seen a lot of different analytics websites have Kansas State as kind of the clear-cut favorite of the Big 12, but they return a lot of players. I trust their lines. I think that Kansas State is always going to have good offensive and defensive lines, which is extremely important, obviously, in the game of football. And Avery Johnson, didn't have a good season last season, I don't think, by what people expected him to do, but I think that another year of experience under his belt, that was his true first season starting at college football, high-level college football. And I think he'll get better going into year 2 here. But I think Kansas State should be up there with Texas Tech and ASU at the top. I was a little surprised to see how little votes they got, but also agree with you. A lot of weird, just 1 vote teams in there. Yeah. But at the same time, goes to show the parity in this conference, the fact that so many different teams can be picked by all these players as potentially being champions. But 30 votes, anonymous votes from the players, and you get 7-8 different teams potentially as their picks for Big 12 champion at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, and to speak on the 1 vote thing, right? Like, it feels like in a year with less parity, a team like Colorado might even get multiple votes there, because you're bringing in a top quarterback recruit in addition to one of the top quarterback transfers. And then, I think the Deion hype is still existing in a way somehow. So, Colorado getting a vote, I poo-poo it because I don't think it's really a valid and analytical thing. But you're right. There is so much parity in the Big 12 that I really can't say that you're clinically insane for saying that Colorado could win the conference, because I would have said the same thing if you said ASU was going to win the conference last year. I would have called someone and had you locked up with a straitjacket. So what do I know? And, we were
I would have done the same.
Yeah, right. And I feel like we're talking about the parity in this conference, and we're talking about how, Texas Tech has pretty much paid their way into this parity.
Well, they were a part of it last year. I don't want to make it seem like they didn't have a good team last year, because they did.
Fair. No, fair. But I think for the continuation of being a part of it, I think is you're paying to play in a way. And I think ASU returning next year is we talked about it yesterday, and Kobe's talking about it in the chat. Is Sam Levitt going to be the guy that we as the nation is appointing as the next Heisman candidate without the guy that maybe made it all spin in Cam Scadaboo? I don't know if that's going to be the way it is. There are so many teams in this conference that you can make an argument for them being at the top or in that middle. We talked about it yesterday. And I think, relating it back to Arizona, like this is the best kind of a conference to try to have a bounce back season in, outside of having a weak conference, right? I think being able to say, like, at the end of the year, if you make a bowl game by one game or whatever, like, hey, we made a bowl game and it was a pretty damn tough conference, like that gives you more hope going into next year. So I love the Big 12. I love being in this conference. I love the damn parity, Damon, and I'm ready to see if I know there's not a Big 12 poll, but I'm excited to see if the predictors and the analysts were right or wrong this time around.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think that the Kobe discussion, or the discussion Kobe's bringing up, I should say, that about Sam Leavitt is such an interesting one, right? Because I agree that, like, Sam Leavitt was almost, in my opinion, like a huge product of the momentum that Cam Scatterbo brought Arizona State last season, and you felt his confidence rising with each game, while Scat continued to kind of get better and better and do things that were like groundbreaking almost, in college football. Like he was almost the number one story in all of college football at certain points of the season. But I expect ASU's running back room to be really good next season. Like I think Kanye Udo and Rilek Brown and Kyson Brown, like they have a good room. So I don't think that they're going to be like, Sam Leavitt's going to be like, oh, now I have no run game because Cam Scatterbo's not next to me. But at the same time, there is a difference in level there of like, one's the best player in program history and the other ones are like guys that, will go down as probably good players, but not that level, right? And how much different does that make things look for Sam Leavitt? Is he the player that he, as you said, has been anointed? At this point in the offseason, because it really truly has felt like he has been anointed. And I was seeing some, like, not to like rag on people because I think that it's totally natural, but I was seeing some tweets today of like, can't wait for ASU football. And I was just like, I thought to myself, famous last words. That's what it's ASU and U of A. It's the exact same way. Every time that it feels like that either team has big expectations, it all just comes crashing and burning to the ground.
Yeah. No, it does. And I also think, like, I'm not trying to turn this into like a hating on Sam Leavitt fest, because that's not what I'm trying to do. Because I do think he's a good quarterback, but I think he's a good quarterback. Like I haven't watched Sam Leavitt, and he's done some great stuff, right? But I've never watched him and been like, whew, now that is an elite quarterback in college football.
Well, what's crazy
I've seen him make some nice plays, and I'm like, okay, that was a great play by Sam Leavitt. But overall, over the course of a 4-quarter game, like I've never watched Sam Leavitt and been like, that's generational.
What's crazy is that people like watch the Peach Bowl Texas game and think that, and I'm just like, I had a tweet like kind of pop off because ASU fans were so mad at me because I said it as such, like, hey, I don't think he played very good in the game where he had a 50% completion percentage and more interceptions than touchdowns, and people were like, how dare you, sir? How dare you say something so blasphemous and hateful? And it's just like, okay, man, we're gonna find out though, because I promise you this podcast, if he's not the best, we will be there.
We will be there no matter what.
On the front lines.
Yeah.
Kevin you're welcome to join me, sir, but when I say this podcast, I really mean me.
No, I'm with it. I'm with this one. We're not going to anoint the guy as Heisman before he even played without an NFL running back behind him. So yeah, no, I'm with it.
Absolutely. Can't wait for football season, man. It's coming up on us quick here, and it's going to be so much fun. I'm fired up about it. Fired up to see what, Brent Brennan, Seth Dagey, Noah Fafita, and co have for us next season. But a lot of basketball talk, a little bit of football talk. One last thing before we get out of here. Arizona football alum Jonah Savanaya signed his deal today. We do have a tweet here from Mike Garafolo, of course, friend of the PHNX Cardinals program, Mike Garafolo, where he reported that Jonah Savanaya has, signed his contract with the Miami Dolphins. There was obviously a big holdout, if you were keeping up with it, with second-round picks in particular in the NFL. There was a time, Kevin, where no second-round pick had signed a contract in the out of the second-round draft picks here in the draft. 37th pick, Jonah Savanaya signs his contract. It is 100% guaranteed with the Miami Dolphins. That was the holdup. Second-round picks in the league have kind of been doing like a collective holdout, trying to get 100% of their contracts guaranteed, similarly to how it is with first-round picks. And Jonah gets his big payday here. So shout out Big Jonah. Big Jonah's big bag, as Kevin puts there on the screen. And shout out my Miami Dolphins. I expect a long, storied and winning career for Jonas Avenaya in Miami. But all jokes aside, definitely, figures to be a starter from day one. Gets his big bag.
And then real quick before we actually do get out of here, Kobe asked in the chat earlier who I have this weekend between Dustin the Diamond Poirier and Max Holloway. I will be putting money on Dustin the Diamond Poirier at plus odds because I'm a sucker.
Man
was what I'm gonna tell you. I'm a sucker.
You love the adding in the nickname. To me, I don't know why, and I know it's such a big part of fighting culture and like how they do it, but I get, unless it's like actually a good one, for some reason I get like cringed out by Dustin the Diamond Poirier.
Is it gonna be cringy when he walks out to the custom version of the diamond, like shine bright like a diamond?
I mean,
like,
that's cool.
Like
I like coinciding it. There's something about it.
You need a good nickname. I think the Diamond is a good nickname.
That one's decent.
Pressure makes diamonds. He's from the slums of Louisiana. He's probably just like a lump of coal when he starts out in life.
What was the one that you said earlier for
Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira? LOKDAWG?
No thanks, dog. You keep that one. Vinicius Oliveira is a sweet ass name. He doesn't need a nickname. Or Vinny.
Lockdog.
Lockdog. What?
Derek the Black Beast Lewis. I mean, that one's
cool.
That one will get you in trouble in certain. You can't be.
That one's cool.
Yeah, I know, but yeah. Anyway, what are some other El Matador? I don't like El Matador for Ilia Topuria. It makes sense though, because he's just like, hey, Max Holloway.
See, to me, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, he trains in Spain. He's grown up there. He's the Matador.
Dude, well, do you remember when he changed his name for like a week to La Leyenda or whatever the legend is in Spanish? Mm-hmm. And everybody was like,
no thanks.
You're actively competing. And you're just like, I am the legend. And he came to his senses about a week later. But yeah, I think Dustin the Diamond Poirier is a good bet. But my brain is telling me Max Holloway's going to win a decision this weekend. But I'm honestly hoping to see a Dustin Poirier knockout of Max Holloway. I think that'd be epic in his home state of Louisiana. Apparently, Lil Wayne might wrap the belt on him if he does, the BMF belt, if he does win. So I'm betting with my heart this weekend. There's never a better weekend than UFC 318 to bet with your heart because it's Dustin the Diamond Poirier's last dance.
I almost kind of like, I've talked to you about these double chances before, Kevin, and I know that you're not super, familiar with the double chance game.
Oh,
but
I am.
I mean, except when I brought it up to you in the past.
I am now.
You've been like, what? I didn't know that was a thing. I kind of like Poirier by TKO or Holloway by decision. I'd love to see the line on that with our friends at Bet365. I think that feels pretty good to me because, like, as much as I like Max Holloway as well, and we talked about this off air, but the BMF fight in his last fight, like, a little bit maybe overrated the knockout.
This is a guy that knocked out a dead man walking in the last second of the fight in round 5.
A blind man who couldn't breathe in last second of round 5. As Justin Gaethje was ready to literally die in the ring for a good show.
Yeah. Shout out to him, man.
Yeah, shout out the Arizona boy, Justin Gaethje. But I think that, Max Holloway, like, I know that was a knockout. He kind of has pillow hands a little bit. Like,
he's just super volume heavy.
He touches you up,
yeah, super
and he's
volume
super
heavy,
accurate, but he doesn't have a ton of power. And that's where I think that, if he wins the fight, I feel like he's going to make Dustin Poirier look like his face is going to be all mashed up and whatnot. He'll be bleeding probably all over the place, but he probably isn't going to get knocked out, in my opinion. Maybe this is a freezing cold take. We look back on this in a little bit, but I don't think that Holloway's going to knock him out. I could see a world where Poirier knocks him out. But I think if it goes to decision, it's a Holloway win. Also,
like, this is the cliche stuff to bring up, but like Max Holloway's last fight was a knockout loss, a vicious knockout loss. Like, how does that affect his chin? Like, he's been an immortal chin, but like, is it like Chuck Liddell where once you lose it, once you've been knocked out, it's just cracked like Liberty Bell, and you can't get it uncracked?
Or is it just that Ilia is that special where
La Leyenda?
Yeah.
No, genuinely though, like, is Ilia that accurate? Is Ilia just that special? Or, well, I mean, could it be both? It could be both. Ilia cracking the chin being special and then the chin just being cracked after. We don't know.
True.
But it does feel like Dustin, who was able to put the hands on him in fights 1 and 2, beat him up real bad at points in fight 2, I believe. I feel like he can do it again in his home state. But Max Holloway's fighting for more stuff after this than Dustin Poirier is. And as I already alluded to, Kevin Holland catching a dub. Danny Ige is definitely going to catch a dub. Daniel Zellhuber versus Michael Johnson? I don't know. Michael Johnson doesn't like this guy.
This is what we were talking about. I think Zellhuber is going to win for sure, and I think he's the better fighter, but I do think that there is something scary there with Michael Johnson just being his experience level and like, minus 550 for Zellhuber is that's crazy.
And this is a fight that
I don't know that you want that.
This is a fight that like Michael Johnson didn't really like care about at first. Like he was like, who is this Zellhuber kid trying to get my attention? And all of a sudden, Zellhuber is like talking a lot. He's talking a lot. And I think Michael Johnson is not taking I feel like I'm saying he's taking this fight very serious as of now because Zellhuber's been talking a lot. So I think it's going to be a banger. I think a lot of these fights on this card are going to be bangers. The card itself, if you look at it, is kind of not very consequential from like a matchmaking perspective, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
It has some notoriety, though.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. These are going to be wars. Like, a lot of these fights are going to be wars, and you're going to get some finishes in there, and I really hope I'm not wrong. But, yeah.
Kobe's got Dustin Poirier. You got Dustin Poirier. I got Max Holloway, and I'm ready to victory lap if on this Monday show if Max Holloway ends up on top. So
I'm betting on Poirier, but I do think that
us
Holloway
Island
wins.
boys, we just got to stick together. Me and Max.
Island boy.
It's that simple. That's going to do it for us today on the AZ Wildcats podcast. I appreciate everybody for being here. That was a fun little way to round out the discussion. We'll be locked into the UFC 318 card this weekend, of course, with our Bet 365 app, as well as maybe a little bit of a Gila River run. You never know. But that is my host, Kevin Thomas. Kevo posts, of course, on Twitter. I am Damon Dog. That is a DAWG on the end of that one. Please give me a follow as well. And then follow our account at PHNX_Wildcats. That's going to do it for us today on a Friday. Thank you for rocking with us this week on the AZ Wildcats podcast. We will be back next week talking Arizona football in lead up to the season, almost just a month away next week. And of course, always talking Arizona basketball. We will be back on that Monday episode at 2 p.m. But until then, peace out. Bear down.
Go Cats, shine bright like a diamond.
We all silly like the mayor.